You're listening to Short History Shorts audio, where history speaks louder than images. The Carthaginian military machine is often remembered for Hannibal's daring campaigns and war elephants crossing the Alps, but their broader military doctrine reveals a unique and pragmatic system of warfare shaped by maritime dominance, mercenary armies, and geopolitical necessity. Carthage did not build its power through conquest alone. It thrived by controlling trade routes and naval choke points, relying heavily on calculated interventions rather than continuous territorial expansion. Unlike the citizen-soldier ethos of Rome or the phalanx-driven warfare of the Greeks, Carthaginian military doctrine was mercantile and strategic. Carthage's armies were not primarily composed of Punic citizens. Instead, they were a mosaic of mercenaries, levies, and subject peoples drawn from across the western Mediterranean. Libyans, Numidians, Iberians, Gauls, and Balearic Islanders filled the ranks of Carthage's forces, each contributing distinct combat specialties. Libyans often formed the heavy infantry corps armed with large shields and spears. Iberians brought fierce swordsmanship and guerrilla tactics. Numidians offered unmatched cavalry, famous for their speed, flexibility, and ability to harass enemies into disarray. Balearic slingers were highly valued for their long-range accuracy, often disrupting enemy formations before close combat even began. These foreign troops were organized under Punic commanders and sometimes under their own tribal leaders. At the top, Punic generals, frequently drawn from Carthage's aristocratic families, held overall strategic control, though political oversight by the Carthaginian Senate or ruling oligarchs was ever present. Generals who failed were often punished or even executed, making success on the battlefield a matter of survival as much as glory. Carthage's reliance on mercenaries was not a sign of weakness, but a reflection of its economic strength and imperial flexibility. The city itself maintained only a small standing army. This allowed Carthage to avoid the social disruptions that a large militarized citizenry often created. Instead, Carthage projected power by funding large-scale professional armies during crises or campaigns, mobilizing diverse forces with targeted goals and clear operational timelines. Carthaginian battlefield doctrine focused on mobility, deception, and strategic depth. Their use of feigned retreats, encirclement maneuvers, and terrain manipulation was honed over decades of warfare in diverse environments. The famous double envelopment at Cannae, orchestrated by Hannibal, was not an anomaly, but the pinnacle of Carthaginian tactical brilliance. Even earlier in Sicily, Sardinia, and Spain, Punic commanders had demonstrated the ability to outmaneuver heavier or more numerous foes through superior planning and execution. Naval power was central to Carthaginian military thinking. The navy served not only as a projection of force, but also as a supply chain lifeline. Carthage developed some of the most advanced shipbuilding facilities in the ancient world, including dry docks and standardized warship construction. Their fleets of quinqueremes, massive five-rowed war galleys, dominated the western Mediterranean. Naval battles focused on ramming and boarding, but Carthage also developed harassing tactics to intercept enemy logistics and trade. In siege warfare, Carthage often relied on long-term containment rather than direct assault, preferring to starve cities into submission rather than waste resources in costly frontal attacks. However, when direct assault was necessary, especially under commanders like Hamilcar Barca or Hannibal, Carthaginian engineers proved skilled in building siege engines, towers, and battering rams, often adapting Greek or Eastern designs. Strategic geography also shaped Carthaginian doctrine. Carthage's territories were scattered across Africa, Spain, and the islands, requiring decentralized command structures and autonomous generals. This led to a doctrine that emphasized self-sufficiency in commanders and adaptability on campaign. Punic generals were expected to act independently when communication with the central government was delayed, a necessity given the distances and time constraints of ancient war. One weakness of Carthaginian military doctrine was cohesion. The reliance on mercenaries and subject peoples often led to loyalty issues, especially if pay or conditions faltered. The infamous mercenary war after the First Punic War, when unpaid foreign troops turned on Carthage itself, highlighted this structural vulnerability. Rome, with its citizen armies and loyalty to the state, capitalized on this flaw during the Punic Wars. Yet, despite this fragility, Carthage achieved astonishing feats of military effectiveness. Hannibal's campaigns in Italy from 218 to 203 BC demonstrated that the Punic military system could outfight Rome's legions repeatedly, using terrain, supply control, diplomacy, and sheer tactical genius. Even after devastating defeats, Carthage showed resilience, rebuilding armies, retaking lost territory, and reasserting naval control when possible. Carthaginian military doctrine was also deeply tied to diplomacy and commerce. Carthage often preferred to avoid war unless essential, using treaties, alliances, and trade embargoes as instruments of statecraft. When war came, it was fought not only with swords and ships but with gold, manipulation, and divide-and-conquer tactics. Carthage thrived in complexity, its armies were diverse, its strategies multifaceted, and its campaigns often designed to preserve or enhance trade supremacy rather than conquer for conquest's sake. In sum, Carthaginian military doctrine reflected the nature of Carthage itself: pragmatic, economically driven, and globally engaged. It valued flexibility over uniformity, intelligence over brute force, and alliances over assimilation. While its weaknesses, especially in loyalty and political cohesion, eventually contributed to its fall at the hands of Rome, its military legacy lived on. The lessons of Hannibal would be studied by generals for millennia, and Carthage's integration of diplomacy, commerce, and warfare remains one of the ancient world's most fascinating examples of imperial strategy in action.